Morning, girls. Good morning. Oh, what are you seeing? Right, let's... Hiya. Hiya. Hey there, girls. Hi, Beryl. Let's get you. Hi, Beryl. Hello, darling. There. Hey, darling. Hiya. Hiya. Are you pleased to see me? Hi. Hi, you two. You coming round for a visit? Hello and welcome to my garden and the dinosaurs who live there. Well, we're in the first weekend in December. It was very rainy yesterday, Saturday, but today it's going to be a nice bright day. Cold though. And I'm out here with the chickens, but a little bit has changed since the last time I videoed with the chickens. And that is due to what is becoming an annual now outbreak of avian influenza or bird flu that has been quite prevalent in the UK and has caused the government to introduce a mandatory housing order for chickens, which means that for captive birds in general, particularly poultry and hens, and that then means for my girls that they're not allowed out into the garden because birds have got to stay protected from wild birds. They've got to stay under cover, and that cover could be tarpaulins, it could be very tight mesh, and the idea is to stop wild birds getting access to your chickens and therefore not passing the avian flu on to them, because it's highly infectious. So yeah, we did this last year as well. 2 years before that we didn't have a mandatory lockdown, and then the year before that we did. So it's sort of pretty regular because bird flu comes into the country via migratory birds, sort of October, November time, and they then pass it on to our native wild birds, and that also can get passed on to our captive birds. So it's not great, I have to say. You want to protect your girls from avian influenza, absolutely, because it's a death sentence. As soon as you've got a case, your bird will die, and if your other birds don't die of it, they'll be culled. So it's not good. Anyway, the bottom line is we've got to keep our girls under cover. Now, I actually didn't have to do anything in so much as both my runs, the one you see behind me and the one over there, have actually got covers on, they've got roofs on, so you're not going to get any wild bird poo coming into the runs. But they're relatively small runs and I'm used to having the girls out in the garden, and I didn't want to go through the winter, because this will probably go on until March, April time, it has to be said. I didn't want the girls to start going a bit stir crazy. And also Tom and I enjoy interacting with the girls, and the runs are really too small for us to be sitting in. So I'll give you a look at what I've done. But I'm sitting here in a new run. It's actually a run that I bought. It's a metal tubular frame. I haven't put the mesh that was provided with the run in. I've instead just put debris netting and wild bird mesh, just to stop access from wild birds, because the girls aren't going to be here in this particular part of the run when we're not here, so it doesn't have to be fox proof because we're going to be here. It has got a tarpaulin roof, has to be said. Bit crap, excuse the term. It's a bit lightweight, the tarpaulin roof, so we'll see how long that lasts. So this is now positioned outside the new run that I built, and it leads on to the area where the older runs are, and that's got tarpaulin on. And last year that's what I did, I just had the tarpaulin over the existing runs there, and that just gave them a little bit more of a play area. So the objective of this is to have a connection between the two runs, so that the girls can come out, have a bit more of a leg stretch, we can interact with them, and more importantly, or most importantly, the chickens in both runs can interact, because we want to keep them as a single flock. And if we were to keep them entirely separate for 4 months, then there would be this whole pecking order re-establishment that would have to take place, because they would be have formed their disparate flocks by that point, rather than one cohesive one. So it was important for us to make sure that they could still interact, because as soon as we actually open the doors, we'll find that the girls from over there will come here, and sometimes vice versa, and they'll sort of mill about around in the sort of play area as well. So yes, that was last weekend actually. It was freezing cold, although it was pretty much mostly dry all the time. I got this all constructed, and yeah, we should be okay. The only doubts I have is when we get really windy weather, and that's always the case when you've got tarpaulins involved. So I just need to see what happens when we get higher winds that undoubtedly will come along regularly throughout the winter. Last time there was 2 instances when the big tarpaulin that I had up then just got ripped down, and Tom and I were out here in the dark, in the driving rain and blowing winds, hanging onto the tarpaulin as it was flapping about, while trying to basically take it down until the next day, when we could sort of reassess and put it back up again. So it's not fun, and in some ways we've made ourselves work by doing this. But as I say, it's probably going to be about 4 months for the girls being stuck in lockdown, and I really want to make sure that they have as pleasurable a time as they can do. So let me show you what I've done in a little bit more detail, and you can have a laugh at the thought of this holding up when it gets windy. Okay, this is the new metal framed run that I bought and put together. It is, I think, 3 metres by 1.5 metres, and you can see this tarpaulin here. The idea, it does come with mesh, and you would normally mesh it all to make it fox proof, but as I say, that wasn't the intention for me to do at the moment, although when we move and we've got more space, we may well use it for that purpose. I have a variety of netting up. This is quite dark netting, so I've just put these bits of string just so that birds don't fly into it and get stuck. There's the door there actually. It's there's a door to get in and out, and it's actually quite useful because the wee boy quail are out there. More netting here. And then we've got debris netting over this main area to stop any birds getting in from this direction, and I just tie that up when I've got the door open to the new run. Hello girls. Okay, and if I step through here, this is me into the area where I've got the big tarpaulin. It's actually 2 tarpaulins this year, and I did this intentionally, even although it gives me a potential for a little bit of water ingress. But the last year I used 1 huge tarpaulin, and as soon as this is the area that's most exposed to wind, and this was the area that got beaten up by the wind, and as soon as that went, this area went, then it took the rest of this with it. So I figure if I've got a smaller tarpaulin here, then if that does go, then at least this tarpaulin will be okay, and then I can just replace this one. And then at the back there, there's some debris netting, which I'm going to have to fix that because there's a little bit of a gap there. The idea is we don't want wild birds coming into this area and potentially bringing in disease. And then up at the other end, we've got more debris netting. I put the odd bit of timber across to help fix all of this. And then here, just at the entrance, we have our foot dip, which is a DEFRA approved disinfectant to make sure that we dip our feet before we come into this area, so we don't bring in any disease as well. So it's a bit of a hodgepodge. I've tried to make it as secure as possible. I have bungeed it to death. I went to B&Q last weekend and spent £70 on bungee ropes and other ropes and all sorts of fixtures and fittings. That wasn't even the tarpaulin. I've still got a few bits and pieces left, right enough. I've not used it quite all yet, but yeah, that was a bit of an investment, but hey, that'll be good for the future. Yeah, so that's us. So we do have then this play area where the girls can come out and they can interact, although they've all just gone in there. And you can see there's some seating there that Tom and I use. And it's sort of civilised actually, albeit it's blooming Baltic. And to be truthful, the girls, come winter time, don't really want to venture too far. Although they would, if they got the opportunity occasionally, they would meander around the garden. But it's not such a bad state of affairs that they're sort of confined. But I just didn't want them to be just stuck in their little runs. Albeit they're small and bijou. So you can see they're very, very well integrated now. Oh, you can see wee Beryl over there, who was the reason for this run being built. She's sort of staying out the way a little bit because, of course, the reason I built this is because Edith there and Matilda at the back were a wee bit pecky at times to Beryl, and because Beryl's blind, she couldn't see it coming and she was getting very stressed. They still mix, but it's always when we're here, so we can make sure that they don't get she doesn't get pecked like she did before. She just sort of disappears under the coop there. There's Hamble, she likes it under there as well, and she's safe while the others are visiting. Little Ems here is very much in mid-molt, as you can tell. Aren't you in mid-molt? Yes, look at you, scraggy. Scraggy little girl. Whereas Hamble is just looking delightful, aren't you, darling? And Edith also is growing her feathers back in after molt. So she's looking a bit scraggy as well. She normally looks absolutely glorious. They all do. So that's how we're doing now that we're into chicken lockdown, or as we call it, flockdown. Of course, this time last year, people were in lockdown as well as the chickens being in lockdown, so that was a double whammy. At least we can get out and about now. But the girls are fine, they're doing okay. I keep my fingers crossed that we don't have any terrible storms. We will have. And I just hope that everything can stand up to what the weather throws at us, but we'll deal with it when we have to deal with it. I hope all you other chicken keepers out there are doing okay, and that your chickens are coping with things. I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you have, please give me a thumbs up, and I will talk to you again very, very soon. Bye bye for now.